Welcome to UC Bearcats on the Prowl, part of the Grueling Truth Radio Network. As always, James Ernest and Mark Fightmaster here to cover the Bearcats. Mark, what have the Bearcats been up to?
Well, do we have to? Last week was not good, man. Central Florida, we thought it was going to be a tough game. We both thought Central Florida was going to win. We both thought Central Florida was going to win big.
Yeah.
I don't think either of us really saw that happening. What did happen, they called the game shortly after the third quarter ended, and it was 51-23 Central Florida.
Mm-hmm. And they were right to do so, yes.
It was bad.
It was bad on the field, and it was bad in the air. Yeah.
Yeah. James, at one point, I think Central Florida's quarterback had thrown the ball 3 times, had 2 completions for like 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was all big plays. It was big play after big play.
Plays and no punting. They were scored on like every drive. I think the best UC did was they held them to a field goal one time.
Yeah, it was brutal, man. It was brutal. I'm looking at some of the stats. Central Florida, the kid threw for 3. What's his name? Mackenzie Milton, who's a sophomore, which is not great. He threw for 374 yards and 5 touchdowns. And that was in basically 3 quarters of football.
Oh, yeah. He looks like a world beater.
Oh, God, he looked unbelievable. And then the running game, we held him to 151 yards on 21 carries. That's 7 yards a carry, man. It was bad. I think here in the stats, it has that the average offensive play for Central Florida was 12.8 yards. What are you going to do?
Exactly. Yeah, I was going to say, if you were there as a UC fan, it was not worth being there. I unfortunately made the mistake. They had, on the bright side, let's say some of the good things we can say about the game. They had really good chicken sandwiches and potato salad.
Nice.
That was about it, because I got there at halftime, and I grabbed a bite to eat, and I chit-chatted with the Bengals scout that was at the game, which I'm guessing the Bengals scout was there to see Central Florida and not UC.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he was at the game, and we were talking about some of the Bengals stuff and talking some of UC's things that they need to overcome and how Fickle's, got them on the right track, but it's, hard to do with someone else's players.
Right. And you're talking about someone else's players. I found it interesting this week listening. I read a blog entry by Lance McAllister. He was talking about how, a lot of times when a new coach comes in, he's going with other people's players. He's got maybe 1-2 years left with them at the most. But he was saying that with a majority of this roster, it's like a lot of Tuberville's players are sophomores and freshmen, and it could be rough to overcome, but the hope is that Fickle can recruit some kids that are going to beat them out. So
very true. That's what he needs to do. And then whatever happened to the Ohio State guy that came down and went to like Cincinnati State for a cup of coffee or whatever?
He had to pull out. I don't know if he got in trouble again. I can't remember. But I do remember a couple of weeks before the season, he had to just forget about UC.
Oh, damn. That's damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like, either having him as the quarterback or having him as a receiver, either option I'm good with.
Right.
Yeah, because other than Gray, there really ain't much to throw to.
No, and that's something that Fickle's really going to have to recruit. And I think we saw that after this past week against Central Florida, and unfortunately we're going to see it again this week against South Florida. Athletes. Athletes. And we're not going to get the 5-star recruits, or even some of the 4-star recruits, but we got to get some of those 3-star athlete recruits. If you look at let's talk about up the road in Columbus, like I always do. Urban Meyer recruits athletes. He doesn't always recruit a position, if that makes sense.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah, based on the NCAA football game, which is unfortunately how I base all my sport information is from video games, which is probably not the way to go. But on the NCAA game, you could recruit a position, or you recruit this other category. It was called athlete. And, the player, would have different stats, and you pick out what position for them. But you drafted them or recruited them based on the fact that they're just a damn good athlete.
Right. I mean, look at Paris Campbell this year for Ohio State. He was, I believe, he was strictly a running back in high school. Not 100% sure on that one. But they've got him at wide receiver. They've got him in the slot, which can be a running back, but they're, like a Giovanni Bernard style. But then they also put him in the backfield. That's a kid that can play three positions, and he is a top-notch athlete at all three positions. So, and UC, again, they're not going to be recruiting the same caliber, but they've got to be smart and recruit the best athletes possible. Because they just, that's what they're lacking. I mean, the kid who plays safety, senior, Carter Jacobs, he is great against the run, but, man, he was getting torched in the passing game. I mean, absolutely torched. So,
yeah, he's a tough guy. He just, you're right, just doesn't have the athleticism.
Right. And, and he, maybe if he could be one that you can maybe even flex up to linebacker. I don't know. But, I mean, even look at the defenses of some of these top-tier schools. Look at Jabril Peppers at Michigan last year. That kid could play everywhere. Now, granted, he's gone to the pros and isn't doing great. He's a rookie. But, he was a kick returner. He could play safety. He could play linebacker. They even threw him in at wide receiver. And if UC can start to get some athletes of that, maybe not that caliber, but that type, who can compete at a bunch of different spots, then maybe we can take that next step up, because that's not the way Tuberville recruited. And it's painfully obvious when you watch this team. Yeah. So, and I think that's, I'm hoping that that's the way Fickle will recruit, because he's a young guy. He is kind of on that, not necessarily the cutting edge, but he's just on that edge, where they're looking at different styles of players than what the old school of Tuberville looked at.
Exactly. So, Tuberville said, hey, you're a good whatever, and we're going to bring you up, and you're going to do that position. But you're right. You need that player that's just an athlete, and you can coach and mold them into the position.
Exactly.
The other way around. Yeah. Because, I mean, they might be good. Like you said, Jacobs can tackle, and he's solid, but he just lacks that next level.
Right. And to me, I mean, he's not the biggest kid, but he just screams to me in a top-tier school, in a Big 10, Big 12 style school. He almost nickelback or even weak side linebacker, the will linebacker position, because he could use his speed there, and he's good against the run. Yeah. And he's not the liability in the pass game that he was against Central Florida.
Yeah, because he's one of those guys that I have noticed out there on the field is, I mean, he's always doing something, and usually it's the right thing, but you, like you said, I mean, you just can't compete against some of those athletes.
Right. Right, it's tough, I mean, and it's easy to sit here and blame it all on the past coach, but when you got a guy who's just in his seventh game, is this his seventh game coming up? Yeah, in his seventh game, playing with a lot of the kids that the old coach recruited, I think this is one where we can look and say a lot of this falls at Tuberville's feet because of who and how he recruited.
Very true.
But we'll see going forward. We'll see going forward. Hopefully, because I know there's kids coming in, and I know they've gotten a couple big-time recruits locally, the kid from LaSalle, the tight end, and a couple other kids here and there. And, hopefully that hopefully Fickle will get the recruiting turned around, and we'll see leaps and bounds changes in the next couple of years. So now the thing is, you're playing with, you're playing with the typical Cincinnati fans and the psyche of the Cincinnati fans. Are they going to be willing to be patient for 3 years for Fickell to get his guys in? You know, a bowl berth would go a long way to helping that out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to take a lot of patience on the part of the fans. So
that's why, this year, come close to the bowl game, at least be competitive and make us feel like there's a chance. Next year, actually get the bowl game and then progress from there.
Yeah, and looking ahead at the schedule, UC's American Athletic Conference schedule gets kind of easy towards the end. I mean, we've got South Florida, and come on, South Florida's like a 25-point favorite at home against UC. Yeah. But, then you've got what they play. Oh, who do they play next after that? Oh, shoot. I just hit the wrong button. I think SMU is after that. And SMU's decent. I was trying to get to their record on the other side, but I can't see it.
I remember them losing pretty good the other day, and same with UConn got their head kicked in the other day.
Oh, yeah. That's what UC finishes with Temple, ECU, and UConn. And right now, Temple's 3-3.
You got kicked around, so they got a chance against those teams.
Yeah, in the conference, Temple's 1-2, East Carolina's 1-2, and UConn's 0-3, and that's the last three. So if we can sneak a win in the next couple weeks, I'm not holding my breath for South Florida, but possibly that SMU game, possibly that Tulane game, then they legitimately could be going into that. Are they also
playing Tulsa or just Tulane? I forget.
They're playing just Tulane.
Okay. I always kind of lumped those two together for some reason.
Yeah, well, it's easy to do. Same general area and everything. But, if they can sneak in, we're 2-4 now. Let's count South Florida as a loss, so 2-5. If they can win one of those, SMU or Tulane, one of those, and be sitting at 3-6 when we go into the last three games of the season with Temple, ECU, and UConn, maybe those are winnable games.
Those are winnable.
Maybe they can get to that 6-6 level and sneak into a bowl game. Right now, the bowl projections I've seen, they don't have UCN, but it blew my mind because they have Miami of Ohio in. And Miami of Ohio, I think, didn't they lose this week, brutally to Bowling Green?
Yeah. And the Notre Dame one made sense, but you're right, the Bowling Green one, you're kind of like, hey, there's something wrong here if you're losing the Bowling Green.
Well, and the worst part about it, did you see one of the last plays of the game? They were going in to score and take the lead and fumbled, and Bowling Green picked it up and went 99 yards for a touchdown.
Oh, man, they have had it rough because that UC game against them, it was painful to watch from Miami's perspective. Obviously, with being on UC side, we're literally on their sideline. It was, they were all happy, but Miami, it feels like sometimes they're going to find a way to lose, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, there's a chance. There's a chance this year at a bowl game. But I don't think, and we talked about this before the season started, failure or success for this season can't be judged by a bowl game.
Exactly.
Failure or success for this season has to be judged on the way the guys play and if they made any progress under the new coach. And, quite honestly, I think taking last week's game out of the equation, and actually the week before too, when they lost to Marshall in the game that they shouldn't have lost.
Yeah, they shouldn't have lost, but in the second half they at least did some things.
Right,
they did literally nothing in the first half. It was one of those ones where I was like, okay, if they score before half, we might stick around, but they didn't, so there was no point in it. Kind of like there was no point in me going down there last week to the UCF game, but it did anyway. Same with this one. Of course, this one's in South Florida, so don't have to worry about the temptation being there. But, after the last two times they played them, they lost by 38 and 25.
Right. Now, and I think as we go into this week's game, turning our focus to South Florida, we got to have the mindset of that Michigan game. Remember, we were talking about that Michigan game about let's see what happens if UC comes out and gets down early, So it'll be a game where we can try to measure the way they play. You know what I'm saying? As success or failure, not the final score. So it's hard to do. It's real hard to do. I mean, it's hard as a fan to sit here and say, oh, my gosh, we're going into South Florida. We're playing them there. We're 25-point underdogs. This is going to be a loss. What do I look for? And look for the intensity. Look for them to come out. And I'm really interested to see how they come out after last week's game, because, I mean, this is a point, and we've compared this to Tuberville a lot. But this would be a point where Tuberville's team would say, season's over. Let's cash it in, But hopefully they don't do that.
Very true. Switching to some positive news. UC Bearcats in the pros.
Yeah.
I mean, they got some good things going on there. Got a lot of players on the Colts. There's 3, I think, right now. So yeah, They got some good things. Of course, Huber's still in the league, and their tight ends. I mean, obviously Travis Kelce has been doing great up there in Kansas City. So yeah, there's some positives.
Oh yeah. You can always look up and see what the guys are doing in the big, in the pros, and see, there can be success for UC players. So
exactly. Like our guy Justin Murray, he's on Tampa Bay this year. Yep. Mike Tyson with Seattle. I mean, there's some good stuff going on there.
Yeah, and that's something that they can look forward to. These guys, and that's something that Fickle can use. Hey, we put guys in the NFL, so why go to why go to a Big 12 school? Why go to a Big 10 school where you're not going to get as much playing time? Instead, you could come here and start playing for us right away. We put people in the pros, so give us a shot, So.
Yeah, I was going to say, that reminds me I need to bother Tony Green again about coming on the show from Detroit. He's like, I got to get with my agent, make sure it's okay. And I'm like, dude, we need you on the show. Come on, we want to hear about how things are progressing up there in Detroit. And then Johnny Holton, with the Raiders. There's some good things out there for UC players.
Yeah, there's a lot of good going on.
Excellent. So, it's about a 25-point spread. Do you think that sounds about accurate?
Yeah, if not more, man. I mean, South Florida's got the 10th ranked offense in the country and the 15th ranked defense. It does not look pretty for the boys this week. I mean, I'm thinking, South Florida beat East Carolina 61-31. They beat Temple 43-7. I could see them putting 50+ up on UC real easy, just like Central Florida did. So let's say we go 55-21, something in that range.
Sounds about that. Yeah, I was gonna say 60-18. Somewhere.
Yeah.
Just
it's gonna be a tough week.
Yeah. That is gonna be a rough one. Like you said, on the bright side, there's 2 possible winnable games and 3 that should definitely be won. So, it's some things to look forward to. And, of course, the basketball team is, coming up soon, so all kinds of bright spots.
Yep.
Sounds good. Any final thoughts?
No. It's just let's hope we're competitive this week.
Exactly. Like you said, that whole Michigan comparison, you're right, is 100% true. That, don't go into it thinking you're going to win. But, I mean, try. But, obviously a win for us or UC in this game is just showing up and being competitive and just not getting those 2 kind of results like you said about ECU and all that.
Yep, exactly.
So for James Ernest and Mark Fightmaster, this has been the Grueling Truth Radio Network's UC Bearcats on the Prowl.